Well, welcome back again. Tyrannus Cosplay here with part 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, part 6 of the Nordic carved armour build along, and tonight we're working on the helmet. As you might have noticed if you've been following along in sequence, the last clip pretty much finished the construction phase of the helmet with all the parts in place. What I'm going to work on tonight is the raised engraving. Now you'll notice that I've already popped a piece of foam here on the ear because, as I mentioned earlier, I wasn't happy with that. Also popped a piece in the eye to make the eyeball pop. But what I did, there we go, at the end of last week was trace the patterns, or draw the patterns onto the helmet to show where I wanted the carved Nordic raised bits to be done. The problem is now I need to transfer those patterns to this side of the helmet. So I had a piece of tracing paper, so I thought, and it's too dense, I can't actually see the patterns through the paper. I went and grabbed myself a piece of baking paper from out of the kitchen, and again, too dense, didn't work. Then I remembered I had these little protective sleeves in the drawer here, so I trimmed the edges off of one and ended up with a piece of clear plastic. And if you can't see through that to trace the lines, I need to get my glasses fixed. So once again, don't go too far away. We're going to change the angle of the camera back down onto the work surface and get underway transferring those patterns to 2mm foam, cutting that 2mm foam out and then popping it on the helmet to get the popped details out, and that should pretty much be all we get through in this video. The magic of camera work. Beaming down on the work surface where I have my 2 sheets of plastic. I pop one over there out of the way because I don't actually need that. And the detail on the helmet. So, as I said, this stuff will work perfect for tracing out those patterns. I'm going to pin it into place. Again, the pinholes won't matter because they will be inside the line of the detail, and the detail itself will actually end up being raised foam higher up off the surface. Now I'm still not convinced that the 2mm sheet of foam that I have is going to give me enough raised detail, so I may end up laminating 2 sheets together and trying it as a 4mm thick. Or I might even just go to that 5mm that I've already got and grind off all the detail that's on the back that comes with it when you get it, and use that to get the chunky look. Because if you recall the image that I put up at the end of video 5, you can see that those raised details on the helmet really do stand proud from the surface of the helmet and look quite good, quite thick, quite chunky. Okay, here we go, tracing out with your trusty old Sharpie. Now this may end up being a 2-stage process where I'll transfer this across to something a little thicker than the plastic when I go to cut it from the foam, because if I'm going to do multiple versions of this raised detail on a single 2mm sheet, then 4 and then the 5, I'm going to use that pattern repetitively, and this really thin plastic is probably not going to give me a true edge every single time, where something a little thicker like some cardstock or the cover off a manila folder will give me a much better template to work with. Okay, around there. So that's the first one traced out. Now while I've got this in the same place, I'm also going to do the piece that I want around here to raise the eyebrow around the eye up. So again with the pins to give us some stability. so that we know that our tracing medium isn't moving around and not giving us a true representation of what we want traced. Yeah. Now, I have noticed that there have been 0 comments back on the videos on the YouTube channel and on the Facebook page. So I don't know whether I'm chewing your ears off too much or not enough while I'm doing the build, but hey, this is the way I work. I like to talk or hear something playing in the background, and when I'm not recording videos as I build, I literally have videos just streaming constantly from other builders. I watch a lot of Evil Ted, I watch a lot of Bill Duran, Guami, which I'm probably mispronouncing, Svetlana, who does the series of books. Watch her. I'm a big fan, haven't tested, running in the background a lot. And I've also come across a young fellow in Sydney called Cosplay Chris. And watching his stuff is always a bonus because obviously being in Sydney, he's an Aussie, which means I understand every swear word he says. And much more importantly, when he talks about materials and suppliers, he's generally referring to material and suppliers that I can get my hands on and that do not need any translation to work out what the devil he's talking about, which can be a bit of a bugbear when watching some of our US brothers and sisters doing their crafting and cosplaying. One of the other guys I like following along, one of the other cosplayers I like following along with is on Twitch. I watch Artifakes, which is a father-daughter team out of the UK. So there we go, lots of research material for you there. Evil Ted is the man when it comes to making foam simply. And that sounds like it's derogatory, but that's not what I meant. He makes all of his foam very easy to follow along with so that a simpleton like myself can do it. That's better. Bill Duran from Punished Props and his lovely wife, those guys make props and foam costumes of a higher detail than I see on Bill's. Bill's gives you basics. Evil Ted gives you the basics, and Bill gets into some really great detail on that. Mind you, some of the stuff that Ted's been doing lately with Tested and Frank Ippolito, those helmets for, I think it's True Honor, was the game that all 3 of my fans, my fanboy sensations came together on that project. The Bill made a weapon, Evil Ted made the helmets, Frank had him and his crew making costumes. It was just glorious to watch them all. So yes, I like having that sort of stuff playing along in the background. I know I'm waffling, but this really isn't exciting, riveting viewing, as all I'm really doing is tracing out patterns onto the medium in preparation for transferring to the foam. Okay, got that distinct claw that happens on the cheek and down the muzzle of the bear. There's also this smaller detail here that needs to be traced out. A raised piece that goes here, 2 circles that go there, and I'm debating, although I probably will go for it, on this plate around the helmet and the bottom plate of the around the helmet, there seems to be a raised lip as well. So what I'll do is I'll cut those and pin those in place before I commit to making those, to see whether I like what it does for the look of the helmet and the closeness of my build to my reference materials. Okay, so that's those. The only problem with using this transparent plastic is it's really hard to find out where you put it when you leave it on your desk. Yes. There we go. That one piece will capture both the two remaining templates. Now, it is, as I record this, the 16th of July, and I've got a couple of commissions floating around that I'm working on. I will not have my Nordic carved armour ready for our next convention here in Perth, which will be the Evolve convention that happens on the 3rd and 4th of September. I'm going to bring Phasma back out and take her up to Evolve and use the time between now and then to work on the commissions and also to make the improvements on Phasma, because there are some details that I just threw together in a hurry. Those shins I'm not happy with, but I had plenty of time to fix that. And of course there's greeblies that are missing all over my Phasma costume, which is an easy fix. It was just a matter of not having the time, and I think unfortunately that showed in my finished costume at Supernova. While it got a fair bit of attention, it still could have been done to a much better level of work. Not a mistake I plan on making on a regular basis, of course. Particularly not with your commissions, guys. So let's put that up there. And that line goes along on it. It's really hard to trace right on the very lip of this piece of foam. The marker wants to slide down the plastic away from the line I'm trying to trace. I think that is all of the detail. Let's just review. We've got the eyebrow and the back of the cheek. I have the cheek and the claw. I've got the small piece there and the angle there. Those two circles I'm actually going to trace out proper circles. So yes, there we go. They're all done. Pause the video time, I think, while I cut those out, because that's just boring. Transfer that across to the foam and pin the foam in place. So I'll come back with me placing the foam, the 2mm foam, on the surface to see whether we like how raised that's going to be. I've finished tracing out and cutting out my templates. I've put that onto my 2mm foam, and I have started cutting out a couple of the pieces. And I've also moved the bin, so putting stuff on that side isn't going to work. So I thought I'd pop back and show you the process. What I've done is traced out the pattern on one piece of 2mm foam and then stacked two pieces on top of each other to do the cutting out bit. So at the moment I'm working on that piece that goes along the cheek, down the muzzle with the claw on the front, and being careful not to move the two layers apart, because I haven't joined them in any way. I haven't laminated them. Simply got them stacked on top of each other while I cut out. So again, making sure that I have a really sharp blade is going to make a lot of difference to getting a nice cut right through both layers. Such a tricky piece to cut. Because these are going to be fitted to the helmet before we hit it with a heat gun, be very careful about where I cut so that all my cuts meet at really precise angles right at the very edge of each cut. Otherwise, when I hit it with the heat gun, you're going to see the foam spread apart and show bits and pieces that we don't want showing. Oh, and I've moved them apart, haven't I? Bugger it. Okay, let's proceed. Now for the tricky bit with the wider blade is to get the inside of that claw done, so I might end up switching to one of the pointy craft blades to get inside that hole there. Okay. The thinner blade will make it easier to do the tighter inside shapes, providing of course I can get it to hold an edge. Now you'll notice I've got the blade pretty much straight up and down there, which goes against what I was saying in an earlier video. But that's because I want to bring it right up to the inside corner and not cut into any other surrounding area of the foam. Again, when I hit it with the heat gun, where these joins meet, if you cut into the flesh that you want saved, you're going to end up seeing split lines, and it'll give me more work when I'm filling in all the other grooves on the helmet in what essentially is going to be a really fiddly, touchy place to be. Up off it there, thank you. We get all the way through? We did. Okay, so those are the two side by side, so let's pin those on the helmet, shall we? Now this first side is really easy because this is where we have the original trace lines. So putting this in place is really simple. Putting the other one, well, we don't have any guidelines. Oops, upside down, Miss Jane. I guesstimate that's about right. So a few pins in here. Now to get the finish that I want, I'm going to round these edges off because they're really sharp and precise edging here. And I don't want that. I want it to be a much softer, non-aggressive curve, much like we have here, although that's an exaggeration because the pieces are much thicker. But yeah, it needs to have softer edging on it. But that's fine, we can do that. So, there we go, that's it so far. Let's pop it underneath the camera here. See what you can see. Give it a bit of a rotate. And of course, the master side. And still those two very distinct curves here and here, which are both located down there on the foam. Oh yeah, and the eyebrow, of course, bam, which is going to have a tapered start on this part here. In shot, we are. There we go. This part here needs to be tapered because it's smooth with the face before it comes up and increases the eyebrow. All right. Sure. Continuing on with our labour of cutting. I can feel that running across the table, the glass underneath, so I know I'm getting all the way through the foam with the initial cut. Swap back to the big blade for the outer edge. Out of the way. Because you know that's not a sharp 90 degree, it'll look very weird if it is. And the same on that tip there. One last cut. So those are the two minor curves that go in here. Yay for gravity! Okay, so pop them there out of the work area. Okay. What I might do before I glue those on is to give them the rounded, softer edging is I'll hit them with the sandpaper. And that'll give me that duller edge instead of this sharp edge that I'm getting from the knife. Because I'm cutting through both thicknesses, cutting on an angle to give me a blunter edge is not an option, because obviously I want both pieces to be the same size, and if I cut down on an angle, then the one underneath will end up different to the one on top, which basically defeats the whole purpose of doing them in this way. Okay. Actually, I don't think we need a smaller blade to get in here. It's not yet, anyway. Okay. Do up there. Now these ones I traced out twice because they have to fit very closely to the shape of the eye that's already there on the helmet. Oops. Okay. So yeah, they're going to go just in there. And we'll make the edge of this eye pop a bit more. Like I said, that edge there was sanded down to almost wafer thin. Okay, that's that bit and that bit. One last piece to cut out, the most ziggity zaggity shape that we have. Let's clear those. Try not to drop them all over the floor. Alright. As you can imagine, if I had to replace the blades as frequently as I have to sharpen them, the job would take 3 times as long and would probably be a lot more expensive. We know that angle there is very precise. It matches up with that angle there. It's the only place where the foam fits to an existing detail on the helmet. And all of these corners are soft, rounded corners. Keep the overall look. Okay, because we're on the inside now, I'm going to switch back to the finer detail blade. I feel like I'm chasing my own tail around and around. Ooh. I had to check that I was actually cutting into the cutaway and not the piece that I want. One. Two. And we'll just soften up those corners and make them less aggressive. Let's pin everything onto the helmet, shall we? And see how we look. There. I think we might actually be able to get the popped up look of these raised details as dramatically as I want with the 2mm and the correct highlighting in the paint job. Here. how close to the ear is that one. I think it needs to come down a mil or two. Let's do it there. When they're in place, I'll run a light line around them so I know where the contact cement is pretty much underneath the continuation of the same line down almost by the looks of things. There. It's coming along nicely, guys. Whoop, missed. Good thing I'm not a darts player, isn't it? And adjust the eyebrow to pop on there. Which one is which? I do believe that's the one. So it sits there. As I said, these were traced twice to get the very specific shape that I want to follow the existing line of the eye. I didn't quite tilt that in the right way. And the last one. Okay. That's one side done, and well, placed, and we'll go around those with the lines. Like I said, to make these softer edges, I'm going to hit them with some high grit sandpaper. There we go from the front. Still have those nose details to carve in, and there's the other side. So I'm going to get stuck into that now and glue them down and wrap up the video. So when we come back, you'll see those all stuck into place for the next video, video number 7 in the series. So there it is, tonight's work in progress on the Nordic carved helmet. Back with the next video. Don't forget, boys and girls, it's called Cosplay because it's meant to be fun.